Good evening, everybody. Welcome to One Hub Racing for the final race of Season 17 before the Christmas break and a chance to see which one of us drivers will be blitzing around the Bahrain International Circuit. It is round 2 out of 10 in the Pinnacle tier. It is the Bahrain Grand Prix. My name is Luke Etheridge, and joining me once again in the commentary box is one of our prospect tier drivers. It is Indecisive Mac, also known as Matt. Firstly, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks. As well as I can be anyway. Excited for another potentially sensational race here in the One Up commentary box, which has a bit of tinsel around the window now, so yeah, good.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see some fantastic racing. We definitely saw some last time out at the Austrian Grand Prix. If you weren't with us for round one, we had a brand new victor to One Hub in general. He's been on the podium a few times, but it was Lakitu taking his first ever One Hub victory. From pole position, he'd have won anyway with penalties, but he did manage to get ahead of Toxic on the final lap of the race to ensure he won on track. It was a great debut podiums as well for Dynastics in second, Toxic managing to finish in third, Netsky in the second Mercedes was in fourth, and it's fair to say those top four drivers did look like they had the pace. So even though we've only had one race, wouldn't be surprising if they're consistently fighting for the podium slots.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either, and that would be pretty remarkable racing actually if they're always up there fighting for podiums, but as long as they're not all finishing in the same position, I'm sure this will be very, very exciting for the season.
Yes, definitely. And it is a track that the drivers should have a bit of familiarity with. This Bahrain International Circuit, it's been raced over 20 times in One Hub history, and for the last couple of seasons it has been home of the qualifying night as well. But the big differences, obviously qualifying night is a practice session. Tonight we've got the 18-minute qualifying session and then the 28-lap race, so the track should be faster. And also, qualifying night is in the daytime. This race and the qualifying session here are in the night time, so slightly different track conditions, but at least that does give us a bit of an idea of some of the drivers that you'd expect to be near the top. And Netsky was the fastest on qualifying night, so he'll be feeling pretty confident of his chances to get a good result before Christmas.
Yeah, it will be great for any of the drivers to get on the podium, just to go into the Christmas break on a bit of an upward trend, but I'm sure of any of them he's the better placed, as you say. So we'll get to it very shortly, I believe, but there's a lot of stuff we can cover. Like for now, we'll cover the hot and cold drivers. Hot is Lakitu, as everyone's trying to scramble to claim Louis, the vacant throne. Lakitu was the first to land a decisive blow, but no relation to me because I'm indecisive. But with the last lap pass on Toxic, it is still early in the season, however, but Cold is Janel because he didn't win, so he's on the back foot already and he's chased to be competitive.
I mean, the Cold seems a bit harsh. I mean, he didn't do too bad last time out, finishing in 5th place, and that was actually one of the best results a Red Bull driver got last time out. I mean, they were spoken to in the driver's press conference, in the team's press conference even, saying they're considered a top team, but as we saw in the Pinnacle tier, with Lakitu taking the victory, AlphaTauri are doing better, so are they going to be the number one drinks company team this season? And they did say it's been a big disappointment, but they had several drivers who didn't take advantage of their opportunity. And I know the Red Bull drivers here tonight in Pinnacle, Khalifa will definitely be hoping that at his home circuit he can put in a good performance, although he did take advantage of the new point system at One Hub. His 12th position did end up earning him a point.
Yep, that's always good to see. He had a bit of a up and down race, but he persevered and got a point in the end, as you say. But he's definitely looking to do a little bit better with this being his home track. And I can't think of many more drivers on the grid in many leagues that are from Bahrain, so this is quite unique.
Yeah, out of all the ones I know, I think Khalifa is the only one, so maybe he'll be well versed in this track, maybe not. As we said, it's one that the drivers should all be familiar with here at One Hub. It's been part of One Hub almost since the beginning. I think it's 12 seasons out of the 16 have had a Bahrain Grand Prix on it. Last season was one of the ones that didn't. 23 races in total, and the last time it was used was season 15, and a very familiar face to anyone who's been watching the Esports series took the victory there. It was Danny Moreno, or S2V Danny MG, as he was known in his pre-McLaren Shadow days. He took the victory there. Harris Burrell took a second place, and Leroy taking a third place. No one on this grid here tonight managed to get a podium the last time it was used, when it was Pinnacle Precision and podium tier, and it is the standard Bahrain layout, of course, not the fancy outer circuit that the drivers used in the Sakhir Grand Prix in 2020. 5.412 kilometres or 3.362 miles, 15 corners, and some of these corners are extremely tricky to negotiate.
Yeah, definitely, especially the fast chicane in the end of Sector 1, beginning of Sector 2, and there are a few action zones which will guide you through as qualifying is underway, so that's to look forward to. But there's definitely a lot that can happen tonight, and it probably will.
Yes, one of the things the drivers won't have to worry about, as much as they might do in other leagues around Bahrain, is the strategy, because this is one of those circuits where if you're starting in the top 10 and you're having to start on your qualifying tyres, usually the soft tyres, it can be a bit of a stretch to make that one-stop work. Here at One Hub, though, it is a compulsory two-stop strategy, so that sort of kills the power that the alternate strategy usually has around this circuit, but you really don't want to get damage on lap 1 and have to change your front wing, because chances are you might still have to make 2 extra pit stops.
Well, exactly. I was going to say it's not all bad if you break your wing on lap 1, as Mr. Perez, who's now confirmed in an energy drinks car for next season in real life, which is an awesome move for the team. But yeah, it definitely can go very badly wrong if you're in this league, for instance. But it is 2 stops for everyone. But the early stop, there doesn't leave you many options. A lot of people will probably go on hards, but it's a miserable day if that's the case for some drivers. Some can pull it off. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the few tracks where you do see drivers regularly using a set of the hard tyres. Most often they will try to ignore them completely if they can. Being a 2-stop strategy, I think we'll see most of the field going for a soft, medium, or some variation of that one set of soft, 2 sets of medium strategy. The drivers do have to, of course, use 2 different types of dry tyres, and I'm 99.9% certain, I'm not going to say 100% certain, because there was a bit of rain at the Sakhir Grand Prix in the practice sessions, that it will probably be a dry race, so that is one less thing. That's one less thing, obviously, for the drivers to worry about, and that's such a nice feeling after the Austrian Grand Prix, which started in torrential rain conditions, but about halfway through the race, it was bone dry.
Yeah, I still remember it well, like how it transitioned really quickly. It's like, wow, this happened, but it looks like drivers are starting to slowly ready up, so we will be going shortly. But it's definitely a thing that this track is known for being dry, so it's great that we know the weather already.
Yeah, definitely. We know they're not going to have to worry too much about the sun heating up the track. I mean, I think I said it in the podcast with Jess after qualifying night. Imagine what the tyre wear would be like on this circuit in these modern Formula 1 cars if it was in the daytime, when you've got track temperature probably at least 10 degrees hotter than what it will be tonight. I'm looking forward to hopefully a really good race, and there will be a few drivers who will be hoping to recover after not the best of performances last week. I mean, we mentioned Toxic did okay, but he just seemed to lose all pace at the end of the race. All of a sudden, he was going so slow on the final straight, and he was actually called into the drivers' press conference saying, we always remember the drivers who pull off last lap overtakes. We don't usually remember the drivers who are getting past in them. What will you do to make yourself memorable? And he said, I don't want to say I'm going to be memorable because I might bottle it. I don't want to put that extra pressure on myself. But watch this space. He did show good pace. He just seemed to lose it all of a sudden towards the end of that race. Whether that he meant he got his strategy slightly compromised, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, maybe it was just a compromised strategy, but the tyre wear was pretty abrasive in Austria, but that's probably down to the nature of the track. This seems to be a bit more flat in places, so it shouldn't be as much of an issue, but it is cooler as well, so that's definitely a thing that should help him tonight.
Yeah, definitely. The drivers are then readying up now. We've got 16 drivers ready for this 18-minute qualifying session to determine who is going to take the pole position around this circuit. Definitely, though, a circuit you can overtake on. There are 3 DRS zones, most effective obviously being after the final corner. Basically, all the way to the end of Sector 1 is a DRS zone. So similar to what we saw in Austria, the DRS trains are definitely going to play a factor. If you're at the front, you're going to want to break that 1 second window as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it would be wise to get on with it The DRS train is going to eat you alive if you're not careful. But then there are an element of different things that could happen, so it could work out for you if you're at the front of the train, because the cars behind could run in dirty air and they just can't penetrate. So that could happen too.
Yeah, and if you do want to find out a bit more about your favourite drivers, you can use the TAS system, which is now being demonstrated in chat by Jess and T-Bold, and I think we have actually got a multi-language feature, which is very interesting indeed, and I'm not going to embarrass myself by pretending I know what language it is, although I'd take a punt at French, but if I have got that wrong, I do apologise. But anyway, moving on from my failure to pay any attention in any language lessons at school, let's get ready for the qualifying session. 18 minutes to go. They'll be wanting to start high up. We saw last week with Cliffy, who was the only retirement from the Austrian Grand Prix. If you have problems in qualifying, it's then very easy to get involved in incidents early on and ruin your race.
Yeah, especially here, it's very unforgiving. As we see some very early action in the pit lane. Looks like an energy drinks car and a Mercedes are coming out. Who was first?
I think that's Janil trying to reminisce his days of last season in the precision tier by making sure he is at the head of the field. As always, you're going to want to wait until the end of the session when you're seeing the track evolution play a part. You've got Larkin heading out on track. He did, of course, take advantage of the fastest lap wall here at One Hub. We know the top 12 get points now. You get 20 for a win, 17 second, 14 for third, down to 1 for 12 plays. But if you're outside the top 10 and you set the fastest lap outside the top 10, you got yourself an extra point. And that is what Larkin took advantage of. And it's fair to say the majority of the drivers think that's a good move, because it gives them something more to fight for. If they have a bad race, as long as you finish in the top 12, you're still going to get some points.
Yeah, it's always good to have something to fight for, like the whole fastest lap in and out top 10. I think it's a brilliant move for management, so thank you to the management for that one.
Yeah, I think perhaps not too surprising that Lakitu wasn't a massive fan of it, because it will mean the championship stays a bit closer, and as he's the man at these very early stages leading the championship, perhaps we shouldn't be too surprised and maybe not take that too seriously what he thinks about the rules. We will wait for some of these drivers to get around. They do seem to be heading out on track quite sporadically now at the moment. We had a bit of a rush with Janil and Larkin early on, but now they seem to be taking their time ever so slightly more, wanting to make sure they're getting out in free air. You do not want to get caught in the dirty air on this game, and you can see Larkin is just dropping back ever so slightly in that number 15 Renault, not one number higher than what will we see returning to the yellow and black car next year. So let's go on board with Larkin, one of our race premium drivers, for the lap around the Bahrain International Circuit, first used in Formula 1 in 2004. A 1 kilometre long straight gets you at the start, and then it is a heavy braking zone at the end into turn 1. Need to be careful with the wheel spin as you come through turns 2 and 3. You open your DRS once again, climbing uphill ever so slightly into the right hander at turn 4. Don't be too greedy on the brakes here. It is very easy to run wide, and then you've got this downhill sweeping S section to start the second sector as you come through 5, 6 and 7, watching that curb on the right hand side as it can easily send you spinning round the slowest corner on the track there at turn 8. A very heavy braking zone indeed. And turn 9 and 10, if you've not got anti-lock brakes on, this corner can be an absolute killer. Larkin though either supremely skilled or is using anti-lock brakes on his car. DRS open, then down this back straight. Turn 11, not really an overtaking opportunity unless you've seen a driver make a mistake in this race. Turn 12, another corner where you need to watch out for that curb on the inside this time, as again may send you spinning around, and then into turn 13 and a very straightforward final sector to the lap, going over the crest of the hill here as you start dropping downhill again for the double apex right-hander at turn 14 and 15. You can afford to take a slightly later apex around there as you sweep around the final corner. DRS open once again as you come past the pit lane at a 125.293. It's a very good lap indeed, and when you consider the fastest we saw on qualifying night was a 125, I think that might just show slightly the difference between the sessions now that it's dark. I mean, Toxic already into the 124s.
Yeah, lightning pace for him already. We was just on board with a few different drivers in the very early stages. Samba Game, I think, is on a lap. Yes, he is. He's into sector 1, so he's already gone past one of the main action points, which you'll see into the race. Well, he is approaching another one, turn 9. which leads on to turn 10, obviously, as we just talked about, but it is one of the trickiest braking zones you have. But if that's talking about 9 or 10, I'm not sure. But there will be some mistakes there probably, especially when tyre wear comes into play, because you'll have to brake that little bit earlier, but some people won't be able to because they're in a battle, so they have to try and sort of force it round, I guess. But then you've got the other ones in turn 14, which is an excellent opportunity to get slipstream from the driver in front.
Yeah, definitely. You do want to really, if you're within DRS range going through turn 14 and turn 15, you're going to have a fantastic chance. Maybe not even into turn 1, but definitely into turn 4. You're going to have that overtaking opportunity. We'll see what Samba Gamer can do at the moment. J. Luke's gone into, well, he's now down in 6th place, despite actually originally going purple in Sector 1, so he was setting some very good time, but it's now Netsky who's gone purple in all 3 sectors to set a 1:24.646, and that was another one of the questions the driver were asked about the sectors they prefer on this track, and there did seem to be an even split between drivers saying, oh, I prefer the first and the third sector, they're a bit simpler, or some drivers saying I can gain time in the second sector, so that suggests maybe differences in setups between the cars, and in that case, which way would you go? Would you set up to maybe exaggerate your strengths, or would you set up to just make your weaknesses a bit less prominent?
That's certainly an option that I chose into just hide the negatives. It's a valid option, but unfortunately, as people may or may not have seen, it didn't really work out for some of us, but I won't spoil anything of what happened, but it looked like a good battle at the front for the win in Prospect here earlier, so there's definitely merits to both sides of that argument regards to setup.
Yeah, definitely, and of course you can see all the races from tonight. Prospect tier, podium tier, position tier, and of course the Pinnacle tier back afterwards. We'll see what the only Tomac can do in the Haas car, and Haas were another team to be called to the press conference, because it's fair to say, a bit like in real Formula 1, they've not had the greatest start to the season. They've got no points in this tier. In another tier as well, they've got no points, and in total, they've got the least points out of every team. They have said, though, they're not regretting their drivers' choices. I mean, it is, of course, very early days in the season, and now that the only Toma has got his teammate Eccentricity making his first race tonight, we might see the Haas drivers, we might see them do a bit better.
Well, the only way is up if you take the comments from the head of teams into account, but there's no major issues, just lack of general performance last week, although my teammate in Prospect did a very good job of top 6, which was his best finish, but definitely there's room for improvement for the Haas team in general, but I think it's going to happen tonight because this is a fantastic track for them to take advantage of any mistakes.
Yeah, talking of a mistake, J. Luke, I'm not sure whether he was just going back to the pits because he's already done 2 laps on those soft tyres, but he was way off the circuit through that turn 12, and again, we'll have seen it happen in lower tiers, I'm almost certain of it, and it won't surprise me if we see it happen tonight, especially when drivers are battling. You just hit that curb at turn 12, it really does punish you as the only Toma now goes up into 8th place. We'll see how Lukey is doing. Now, he's invalidated his lap, and he's another driver who just did not have a good time of it last time out. Damage early on. I believe he actually managed to finish. He did finish the race in the end, but he was in last place, 18th out of 18 finishers. And after invalidating a lap at the moment, he won't be wanting to be staying down there. He'll be looking for a better performance.
He will. We said this a lot last season as well. He just didn't have the results his performances deserved, and last week was a tough race. I'm sure he'll bounce back this week as he's gone purple through sector 1 there, so right on cue. Let's do this.
Yeah, he's setting some pretty quick times at the moment, so we'll wait and see what Luca can do on the second lap of the soft tyres. So normally if it was a one-stop race you wouldn't do this, but seeing as the drivers do compulsory have to do a 2-stop, and it's not like you get a 5-second penalty or a 25-second penalty. You get disqualified from the race if you don't do the 2 pit stops, and that does apply in wet conditions as well as dry, which can always make it a bit interesting if you've got them weather changes like we had last time around. So let's see how Lukey is doing through sector 2. I mean, obviously he's green at the moment, but if we compare it to the fastest, he wasn't too far off in the first sector. He's about half a second off Netsky's time in that middle sector at the moment. So this lap Looks like he might put him around about where the only Tomac is, and maybe Konzo and Khalifa, sort of in that mid-125 range. And he does indeed go just behind Khalifa, just ahead of J-Luke. So it looks like the two Lukes are going to be attached to each other once again, with a 125.834. Much better lap from Larkin, though. 124.9, but it's still Netsky purple in all three sectors, and he's just gone faster again. He absolutely loves this place.
Yeah, he's definitely flying right now as Zentricity making his debut. He's now on a flying lap, so back to the Haas car and let's see how he gets on in his first flying lap. Sector 1 is just about over with. I will give you the sector shortly as he goes through 27.4, which isn't bad. It's a 10th off Netsky's time, so he's doing quite well.
Yeah, very respectable at the moment from Netsky. We've got a yellow flag again, and that is Lawmans, who's a long way off the track at turn. It's coming out of turn 3, so he's crashed at the other side of the circuit to where Grosjean had his horrific accident and miracle escape at the Bahrain Grand Prix. We'll see if there is any damage on that racing point. No, he looks like he's got away completely unscathed at the moment, which is obviously fantastic news for him, as Netsky, a 124.437, absolutely flying around this track at the moment, or 436 even, and now Toxic goes into second place, 4 tenths behind. It is very rare we see gaps that big at the top of the session. Netsky and Toxic looking very good at the moment, a 1-2 for the Mercedes team, and they have got the early lead in the Constructors' Championship as well at this moment in time. We'll see what Arnaud can do in the Alfa Romeo car. Him and J-Luke were involved in some pretty feisty battles last week. In fact, it was massive battles for the final few points places, so even so much that J-Luke said, yeah, Arnaud is going to be my biggest rival. So we could see some teammate rivalry behind the Alfa Romeo team. Hopefully they don't fall out too much. Doesn't look like Arnaud is improving at the moment, though. And you always want to improve on your second laps or even your third laps because of the track evolution. Naturally, you would expect to go just a tiny bit faster each time you go out on circuit.
Yep, that's definitely the case. It doesn't always work out, but 99% of the times it does, as on a solid lap. And a moment ago, I was on board with Zentricity, who went P6 overall. Decent effort for him. And let's see how Arna gets on through the final few corners into what is potentially another potential overtaking zone in the final corner if the driver in front makes a mistake, but you wouldn't send it up there blindly because there is only one line through there. But he's got on the power nice and early out of the final corner, and he crosses the line and goes up to P7 with a 25.3.
Yeah, just ahead of Zentricity's Dynastics. Gets himself up into second place, fastest of anyone in that final sector, so must have really nailed the exits out of turn 13 and turn 15. Great job from the Williams driver, and again, it does look like some of those drivers that were towards the top last week, those top 4 who some of the people think already are going to possibly run away with this championship, they're in the top 5. It's Larkin who's got himself involved with them as well with a 124.9. Still a bit more time to go on this session. Still time maybe for drivers to improve. Konzo down in 12th place at this moment in time. J-Luke has just got himself up into 8th place, and again looks like he's going to be fairly close to his teammates this time around. Lakitu though diving into the pits and not really able to improve a lot on that lap last time around. 5 minutes remaining in the session. It's Netsky, Dynastics and Toxic, your top drivers at the moment. Most of the drivers are in the pits or coming in for their in lap or heading out on an out lap. It's just Konzo and the only Tomac at the moment out on flying laps, 12th and 13th respectively.
Yeah, the track is quite quiet right now, but that will all become a flow of activity down the pit lane very shortly as the time is ticking away. There's only just over 4 minutes to go with a little bit of change, and that is just definitely the joys of this track. Is the sessions go by so quick because there's so much action that you never really know where to look in qualifying as well as the race. So this is definitely a sign that we are on for a great race.
Yeah, definitely. Konzo looks like he could be on for a great lap as well. He's definitely improving, so expect him with how close things are as he actually dives into the pits. I was just about to say, with how close things are, he could have maybe even challenged Zentricity, but he does ditch that lap. The only Tomac I think has made a mistake in the middle sector somewhere, so I'm not sure we're going to see too much of an improvement from the Haas driver at this moment in time. How has he done as he heads across the line? Does improve on his time, not on position, stays in 13th place for now, less than 2 tenths behind his teammate. Well, that is 7 place difference at the moment. Lukey has invalidated again, so it looks like he's really struggling with track limits around this circuit, and there are a few corners where it is probably more easier to invalidate. Maybe just running a bit wide out of turn 4 and turn 7 and turn 12 are the ones I'd say normally when I've driven around. They're the ones I'm most likely to run off the circuit, although with some of my driving, any corner really could be a possibility for me to run off the circuit.
Well, that's being harsh yourself, because clearly this game has a problem with track limits sometimes, so that's not necessarily your fault. So don't worry about that. But yeah, he's definitely struggling to acclimatise right now, but that could play impact in the final standings, as there could be a lot of penalties deciding the result at the line.
Yeah, and still a lot of drivers leaving it until very late. Everyone, apart from 2, are now in the pits. And both of those, one of them is on an in-lap, the only Tomer, and one is on an out-lap. Lakitu, as one of the Mercedes looks to be heading out on circuit as well. So it looks like Lakitu's going for the free air option at the moment. He's not got a teammate to give him any possible slipstream, which could always be a help because of how many long straights there are here. If you get things bang on, you'd imagine either through that final straight and heading towards the finish line, or after the finish line all the way up to turn 4, you could get a big boost off your teammate around this circuit.
You certainly could, and that's, you can always communicate and see when your timing's going out and help each other, like me and my teammate do down in Prospect. At all times we try to help each other. Sometimes we'll let the other one go in the race as well, so it's not necessarily structurally sound to just qualifying sessions, but you can definitely gain a lot in qualifying thanks to your teammates' toll.
Yeah, so all the drivers now heading out on circuit for what will be their final laps. What can last week's race winner do then? 2 points ahead at the head of the championship at the moment, thanks to Dynastics getting that extra point for a fastest lap. Didn't seem distracted by the cars coming out of the pit lane, although saying that he gets a bit of a twitch on coming through turn 2. Had to grab hold of the car ever so slightly. We'll see him come around turn 4. You can see the 2 Renaults there. Maybe they're thinking about of working together. And again, another big slide for Lakitu. He has dropped down his ERS though, so maybe enough time just to get round and get another lap in for him, thankfully, in the Alpha Tauri, but not what he would have wanted whatsoever there. Looked as though that car was quite difficult to handle at times on traction.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a handful at the moment, but luckily he does have time to go again, but he has to sort of get on with it, but not too much because he will kill his tyres. But the Renaults are definitely working together here, as you just see Conzo's back behind his teammate. But we mentioned last week, and I've got a little fact about all 4 winners with their first win last week. So that was something that we had to remember.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it with Lakitu earlier, but across all tiers, drivers getting the first win, so not something you see too often. And will we get to see maybe Lakitu do the double tonight? Will we see some other drivers take their first win? None of those top 3 have top wins at the moment, partly because they've never really been in one hub. And Netsky again going purple in Sector 1. He is in the zone at this moment in time. The only Tomer has stayed in the pits. He's had enough. He's saving some tyres for the race then. Maybe not a bad tactic for the man currently 13th on the grid. Ollie Flavel and Lawman's yet to set a lap time. Toxic has made a mistake at some point. He's invalidated his lap, so he won't be improving anymore, which is a shame for him because he's gone personal best in the first sector. Dynastics is improving on his time in the first sector. We'll see what Netsky is doing. Not as fast as his best lap at the moment in that middle sector, but he's pretty much on target to almost equal his time, which even if he doesn't improve, is laying a marker down because it shows the consistency that he has got. Checkered flag is out then around this Bahrain International Circuit. We'll see what Netsky can do as he comes towards the line, and he has found a bit of extra time in that final sector. A 1:24.380. He is absolutely flying around at the moment as, Arnold off the circuit at the same corner where Jack Aitken lost his front wing and caused all that shenanigans in the race. He's off track. Samba Gamer going up to 5th place after a bad result last week. He'll be fairly happy with that.
He will, but Oliver Vel, unfortunately, is invalidated down in P15, so that's as high as he will get today. And his teammate is, though, improving, so let's go on board with... He's in Sector 3, Lukey. Let's see how far up the grid he can get for the start of the race, just to give him some much-needed confidence.
Yeah, our telemetry screen is pretty much a sea of green at the moment. Lots of drivers improving. Lakitu did manage to get up to third place on those older tyres. Larkin in fourth place. Lukey does improve his time, can't improve a position at this moment. And I think that looks like it is pretty much everyone then. So the fastest man on qualifying night is the fastest man in qualifying tonight. It is Netski, the Swede, taking the pole position here then. Dynastics in second, and last week's race winner Lakitu in third position. And I think a few drivers will be hoping that there's a bit of a time trial set up on that Mercedes, because that was quite a margin for a one-hub qualifying session. Just over a quarter of a second back to Dynastics. Lakitu in that third place, very close between himself, Larkin and Toxic. Good performance from Sam Gamer in 6th. Janil was 7th. Zentricity in his first race of the season takes 8th place. Lawmans and Konzo rounding out the top 10. Khalifa gets that free choice of tyres, just 4 thousandths ahead of J. Luke, who was just 5 thousandths ahead of his teammate Arnaud. And then it is the only Toma, Lukey, and Oliver Flavel not setting a lap time. Qualifying proving to be very tough for the McLaren drivers, but very good, definitely for one of the Mercedes. And you've got to say, Toxic, if he hadn't have invalidated, he could have had the pace to make it a 1-2, but that's always the price you pay, and it was penalties that cost him a second position last time out.
Yeah, definitely could have been on the front row with his teammate, but it's still not bad overall, considering where he's starting from P5. Not too bad, because sometimes people are a little bit out of position and can have a bit of an incident, which is not necessarily always their fault. But now we've come to the time of proceedings, which we do every week, which is time to thank our sponsors while we have a moment. So the first one is Liam RBS, who's a fellow driver and sponsor of the trophies, as is Next Level Racing, who will be providing a wheel stand for the winner of the Going Gets Tough award, which is attend all your interviews pre post race, and if you're chosen for drivers press conferences and things like that, just attend them and answer all the questions as Toxic rated up. So I think that's probably a naughty engine point already. And the third sponsor is Vespertin, which I'm sure by the time we finish this season we will have nailed the pronunciation of that, but that's as good as I've got for now.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll learn how to pronounce all our sponsors at some point, and we might learn not to get J. Luke and Lukey mixed up, and some of these drivers might learn not to ready up early. It was very well behaved last week in the Pinnacle tier. We had no stewards inquiries, and we had no one readying up early, and Toxic has just ruined that ever so slightly. We'll see what tyres everyone has gone for. Bit surprising, actually, to see Lukey on the softs going for something different outside the top 10. Everyone else outside the top 10 is on the mediums, and it might be a tough evening for his teammate, because Ollie Flavel has just informed us he's forgot to put a setup on. So it's going to be very tough for Ollie Flavel. Setup's such a big part of this F1 game. You've got to get your setup absolutely nailed on. He's just going to be hoping that he can maybe hang on and pick up a couple of points tonight then. Whereas Netski, he looks as though he's got that car on rails at the moment.
Yeah, definitely big outremont for no setup there at the back, but you never know. Incidents could happen and get him a point at the end of the race. But you mentioned there were no issues last week, but last season the amount of seconds of penalties given out last time in Bahrain was 45 seconds, and the amount of penalty points was 7.5. 46 of the incidents came from the podium tier. Three drivers decided they didn't need to wait and read up before they're supposed to, so there's form on that, and they're just carrying it on tonight.
Yeah, there's always someone as well who gets the double whammy penalty when you do it 2 weeks in a row, and then you get 10 seconds of time penalties. The safest thing I'd just do is not ready up at all and just let everyone else maybe make the mistake and just have a bit of extra time to relax and compose yourself before starting this race. It seems like the only Thomas quite happy to hold back slightly and let everyone's tyres cool down in the Haas. He is a long way off the back of the Alfa Romeos at the moment, taking it very steady in the two McLarens. Not too bothered about trying to speed him up at the moment. He's only just coming around turn 12, whereas the leaders are coming around the final corner. Can we really see past Netski? He was quick here in qualifying night. He's been quick here in qualifying. Can he make it 2 races in a row this season where the pole sitter takes the victory?
he's definitely odds-on favourite to do that with the pace advantage he showed in qualifying, but anything can happen in the race. It very often usually does. But I fancy someone from outside the top 10 to have a storm of a race on strategy, so my money's on Arnold to get some points today as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking Khalifa at his home race in that 11th place on that alternate strategy. He might be one to watch if he goes for the softs at the end and everyone else is on the mediums. The two McLarens then just parking up at the back of the grid, not where we are used to seeing the Woking team as of late, as we now wait down for the lights to come on here to get round 2 of this Pinnacle tier underway. Mercedes leading Williams, leading AlphaTauri. We've got 5 lights. And we're underway at Bahrain. What are the starts like? It looks like a fairly decent start from Netsky from pole position. Straight away, Dynastics is trying to cover off Lakitu on that inside line there. So Dynastics trying to hold off the AlphaTauri driver at the moment, who is going to have that inside line for turn 2. They're still going to be going side by side as are Toxic and Larkin in the background. Netsky, though, with an absolutely fantastic start. One of the Haas cars running slightly wide. Not sure if that was Zentricity, I think, who was just running off circuit ever so slightly. But Netsky in the lead of this race. Dynastics just holding on to that second place now from Lakitu. Toxic and Larkin are battling ever so slightly. In fact, a big slide from the Renault of Larkin, and that's allowed Jano to try and have a go at getting a position. He's finding himself stuck on the outside though. No, so now Samba Gamer wants to get that position done. Zentricity is in 10th place. Olive Flavel with his McLaren with no setup. He looks like he's got no grip whatsoever. He's had a slight spin on this first lap, able to get away with it, and Toxic now starting to put Lakitu under some pressure on this first lap of the race. An absolutely fantastic start from Netsky. He's nearly got that 1 second gap, and Dynastics, he had to fight hard to hold off Lakitu, but fight hard he did. He's now in second place. He's just got to concentrate on trying to stay in touch of this Mercedes.
Yeah, that's all you can do, just stay in touch. It's a long race, you can't win it on lap 1, but you can very easily lose it. A moment or two ago you mentioned Zentricity, who's got very minor damage, so he should be fine. It's probably just a flap of the barge board or something that's just come off there, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him too much as he can take corners, so that's fine. But you do have a move going on in the background there from where I was looking, and now all my timing towers does what timing tower does, and everything seems to be out of sync, so we'll just ignore that for a moment as Netsky's just still in the lead.
Yeah, I thought it was a timing tower tricking me. That's a bit of a mouthful. It's a good job it's water next to it and not vodka, otherwise that would have really gone wrong. Toxic, it looks as though he'd got ahead of Lakitu on the timing tower, and then he decided to make it easier for us and actually did pass Lakitu. A very straightforward move on the DRS, so he's had a very good start. Very good opening laps to this race. He's moved up 2 positions. The biggest winner, though, out of everyone at the moment is Lukey, going up 4 places. Arnold and Zentricity, the biggest losers, dropping 2 places. And I do agree, that damage on Zentricity's front wing is ever so slight. It's probably even just a chip missing out of the end plate. In fact, it's so light, you can barely... Yeah, they look symmetrical to me, so I can't even tell as the cars are whizzing around at 150, 160 mile an hour who turns 11 and 12, where he has got the damage on his car. We're nearly at the end of lap 2 then. They'll be able to use DRS for the first time next time around. They won't have it down the pit straight. They will have it on the run down towards turn 4, and Dynastics doing just enough at the moment to... Well, actually, he's dropped just outside of DRS range, and Toxic looking very quick at this moment in time, looking like he wants to push his way up and make it a very handy Mercedes 1-2. Showing some good pace at the moment, and Lakitu, despite his good start, just dropping back a bit.
Yeah, he's dropping back a bit, but that could just be tyres overheating, running so close to cars around him, or just tactically conserving some ERS or something. Maybe he's turned the fuel mix down, but there could be many reasons. But the reasons that I got confused with the timing tower was it temporarily showed Khalifa was in P3, and I thought that couldn't be right, so we just took a moment.
It always... I think I had Lawman's in P3 on mine. He's in P8, so he's still getting himself some fairly decent points at the moment. Wasn't really expecting loads from this race. He's still not quite sure where his pace is compared to some of the others. So he's just going to go with the flow and see where he ends up. And where he is at the moment is 8th place, and it just shows the pace of the tyres at the moment that Lukey was the biggest winner on lap 1, and he was the only one outside the top 10 on the soft tyre. So I question that move ever so slightly. It's not looking too bad at the moment because he will be able to go slightly longer than some of the others. So maybe, just maybe, if he's careful and those on the mediums are careful, we might even see 2 sets of soft tyres from these drivers. Might, though, be just a bit of a push. At the front of the race, though, Netsky has still got that lead as he comes on to lap 4 of this race. Will it soon be a Mercedes 1-2? You can see Toxic closing in ever so slightly with the DRS open, just showing himself in the mirrors of Dynastics, reminding the Dane, I'm there, and you need to be careful, and you might have to start thinking about some defending. As further down the field, Arnaud has worked his way up into 14th place now, ahead of the only Thomas, and Toxic just not able to get close enough. Dynastics seems very good through that final sector. He was in qualifying. He's not looking too bad at the moment, but you get the feeling that maybe if Toxic had a bit of free air, he might be able to do a better job of keeping up with his teammate than the Williams is at the moment.
Yeah, that's always one reason, but don't discount people outside the top 10 right now because the tyres are soon to switch. The mediums will become better tyre to be on than the softs, especially those that use the softs in qualifying. They will have pretty much exhausted their use in a couple of laps time, but the mediums are just getting warmed up and ready to be in the prime window, so there could be a lot of strategy calls going on very shortly, but definitely still times for J-Luke to not worry about the penalty at the end of the race. But at the moment he's not in a great position, and Ollie Favelli's right behind him even though he doesn't have a setup, so this is good for him as he overtakes someone. There you go. Good lad.
What J-Luke might have to worry about is that big bit of front wing damage he's got, though. He's in 16 for 5-second penalty for corner cutting, so he will have to serve that, I believe, at his pit stop. Toxic has worked his way past Dynastics then, up into 2nd place, so now we'll see what he can do in free air without the DRS. There's all sort of battling going on in the background. Samba Gamer down the inside of Janel before we get to turn 1. A straightforward modern F1 DRS pass there, and that is Samba Gamer up into 6th. Gets a bit of wheel spin, though, on the way out of the corner, so this might be a chance for the 2-time precision champion to fight back. He's not using any ERS. He's not in overtake at the moment. Looks like he's not too interested in going for that move. And Lakitu has definitely picked up the pace ever so slightly in that Alpha Tauri. He's the fastest out of anyone in the final sector, and he was a lot faster than Dynastics on that last lap. 9/10 of a second. Now, whether that's just how powerful the DRS is or not, I'm not quite sure. In fact, the fastest of anyone last time around was Larkin at the back of this DRS train, and he's in a good position if he wants to think about maybe doing an undercut in a few laps' time.
He is, but there's definitely a massive battle going on at the front there. You can see Larkin, Lakitu, Dynastics and Toxic all within pretty much DRS range of each other, so that could get very spicy as Zentricity now joins the time penalties there, which is probably just minuscule sliding off the track, but it's the same for everyone, so it's not as if it's not. But there's a move there as Lomans is under pressure from Konzo, and who's going to come out in front is the final corner, which is not traditional place, but Konzo got it done.
Yeah, we are seeing the first few pit stops then. Larkin has one of the drivers to come into the pits. Lomans and Janil coming in as well, and Lomans did look as though he was struggling for grip ever so slightly, so what tyres will we see from them drivers? I'm expecting mediums for most of them, but Lomans is going for another set of softs, so that is mediums pretty much committed for his final pit stop, and he's definitely going to have to get them to last longer than the 5 laps they've done at the moment, this set of softs. Otherwise, he might even have to go for a set of hard tyres. J-Luke in the pits, serving his penalty, and he's got a front wing change to make. It's going to be a very tough afternoon, in evening even, and indeed he is going for the hard tyre, so that will be another set of softs towards the end of this race. Out in front, though, still looking pretty serene at the moment, is Netsky, 1.7, 1.8 seconds ahead of his teammate Toxic, and then it's Dynastics and Lakitu, still in DRS range of the Mercedes, but not really close enough to look as though they're going to threaten for a move at the moment. And that pit stop's not worked out too bad for Larkin at the moment. He's in free air. Now we've got to see what he can do. Can he make this undercut work and maybe get himself to the front of that train?
We shall see, but he's, as you say, he's in very good position for that to happen. just looking at the sector times, and you have Sector 1, best Sector 1 belongs to Toxic, Sector 2 belongs to Netsky, and Sector 3 belongs to Lakitu. So it's going to be a evenly matched race for all of these, and I'm looking forward to seeing these next 20-odd laps. It's going to be great.
Yeah, Netsky is into the pits then, so our net race leader comes into the pits in the Mercedes. Very clean pit stop from the Mercedes crew out on the medium tyres. As medium tyres going on the car of Lakitu as well, and on Dynastic. So we'll see where Larkin is relative to these guys. I don't think he's done enough to really get ahead of any of them. It's going to be pretty close to Dynastics and Lakitu. He's going to get himself ahead of Lakitu. Can he outbrake the Williams? He's got the momentum on those tyres. Dynastics trying to hang on. He's not got the tyres up to temperature though. He's not used to the grip of them. And Larkin gets that position done, and he's going to have DRS to help him defend down the straight as well, and he might need it because Dynastics is thinking about chucking his nose in on the inside at turn 4. He got far enough alongside to just force Larkin wide ever so slightly, but he has to give up that position, and that is Larkin who's got himself into 9th place, so a net 2nd position at this point in the race. And what that does mean, judging by the undercuts that time around, is Janil out of the race in a full safety car. I was about to say that's bad news for Toxic given the power of the undercut. That might be great news for Toxic because he's basically getting a free pit stop.
It is, and you know, we know that Khalifa in the past likes an undercut, but unfortunately at this point he's on the mediums. I believe that the leaders will be interchanged to mediums, so do you stay out or do they put on fresh mediums and try and run them a little bit deeper for the softs at the end? There's a lot of strategy changes you can do with the safety car coming out, but I'm not really sure what happened to Janel there.
I think it's for turn 7 curb when you hit it and it just sends your car round, because he was well off the wall there. Centricity with a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That is not ideal whatsoever. He will be serving that on his next stop as Toxic just taking advantage of everyone cruising around behind, well, not quite behind the safety car yet, but having to respect the delta, of course. And Toxic, all of a sudden, in the lead of this race with 1 lap fresher tyres than his teammate. That has worked out absolutely perfectly for him, so he holds on to that. Well, he takes the first place because it was looking likely he was going to drop to a net 5th position. And ooh, that is interesting. Larkin has come back into the pits and put a set of hard tyres on. He's going towards the end.
Well, wow, that's brilliant. Looking forward to seeing that. And J. Luke's done the same thing. He's put hards on too. So this, like I said, I've had someone outside the top points to do something amazing from outside the top 10, but I didn't think that might be but Arnold, for now, my choice of that driver is in P7 on some fresh mediums, so he's in a very good position right now.
Yeah, you can see the pit stops on the tower at the moment. So Larkin, he's gone for hards towards the end. Lawmans has gone for mediums, and J. Luke, he's now put a set of mediums on to get towards the end of this race, so they don't have to pit again. Everyone else does, and it's a Mercedes, well, pretty much a 1-2-3 at the moment as the virtual burnt Mylander takes them around. Toxic in the lead, taking advantage of that safety car thanks to Janel's accident. Netsky in 2nd, Dynastics 3rd, Lakitu 4th, Centricity with that penalty hanging over him at the moment. 8 seconds of penalties. He will serve 1 in his pit stops, but that 3 second of corner cutting penalties. And that's always the danger when there's a safety car. Not so much at this point in the race, but say we get one with about 10 laps to go, it's always difficult when you've got penalties because you've got less time to build that margin back up.
Yeah, as you say, it's not going to be an issue for him now. He's just got to get on with the job at hand when the safety car goes in to just maximise his performance and hope there isn't another one, because that could definitely play chaos with your finishing position, as we saw last week on penalties. Excuse me. But there's definitely a long way to go in this race, as you can see from the lap counter.
Yeah, we are only on lap 8 out of 29. Lap 8 out of 29. We're soon coming onto lap 9 out of 29, and if we see J. Luke get a bit of a hurry on us, we've got some more going for that. I want to get a fresh set of tyres on. Konzo and Lukey and Ollie Flavel, so it's going to be a double stack from the McLaren drivers. This doesn't really work out too well on the F1 game. In fact, it works out about as well as it works out for Mercedes at the Sakhir Grand Prix. Lukey's out the pit. Ollie Flavel's going to have a bit of a wait. He, though, puts a set of hard tyres on, so that might delay the safety car ever so slightly. We'll have to wait and see, but it's definitely worth a risk if you lower down the order, because you can think, right, I can get these hard tyres towards the end, The only way I'm pitting again is if there's another safety car, and then I won't really lose anything anyway because everyone will be pitting.
Yeah, of course, depending on when it is, you could switch to softs and have a play at the fastest lap. So this race has a lot of things still to decide. And I'm really enjoying this race, as I do every week in the box, but this one feels very special already.
Yeah, we could end up with quite a mixed up results here. We'll have to wait and see. We're also going to have to wait and see what Netsky can do now that he's behind someone. He qualified on pole, got an absolutely fantastic start, seemed to drive away when it was Dynastics behind him. When it was Toxic, the gap was staying pretty steady. Now, whether that was Netsky just saving the tyres ever so slightly, whether we don't know if the drivers are going flat out 100% of the time. The ideal way to win a race, really, is to win by driving as slowly as possible. You don't want to put the tyres under any pressure. You don't want to hit too many curbs and spin off towards the wall. You don't want to get low on fuel and all of a sudden find yourself in difficulty that way. So whether Netsky was just saving the tyres or not, we're not quite sure. But this could be very interesting indeed to see how the drivers do. We haven't seen the safety car point yet, but if Lukey gets onto the back of that, with J Luke, sorry, gets onto the back of that pack pretty sharpish, I have seen the safety car message of coming in this lap come out pretty much as they're going around the final corner. So we'll have to wait and see whether that is going to be the case this time around. In fact, it does look like it will be carrying on at least one more lap, and I imagine this will be the final lap unless we see some other drivers think, ooh, do I now pick this opportunity to dive into the pits? Although they lose so much track position, I think everyone is going to stay out on track. One driver this is good news for, though, is Lawmans. After going for those medium tyres, he'd have been a bit touch and go towards making it to the end, so he might now be one to watch out for, because everyone else who's gone for that 2 stops has put a set of hards on.
Yeah, he should have a performance advantage at some point over the hard tyres, but whether he can get them as deep as he wants to, he probably will be able to now with the few laps behind the safety car. Takes off all the pressure. But to refer to your point earlier when you say drive as slow as possible, that's out of my playbook, but unfortunately I'm too slow to win at this stage. But it's a long season, we'll get there, I'm sure. But Toxic's doing a good job right now of keeping the heat in the tyres, because that's what you need when the safety car will probably be in this lap, as J Luke is now on the back of Ollie Flavel in the McLaren.
Yeah, but it's one thing you don't want to do at this circuit, is give someone a nice, lovely slipstream. So don't be surprised if Toxic, a la Bottas at Mugello, leaves it quite late to put the hammer down and go when the safety car announces it is coming in. And as you said, Matt, it is a long season. We are having a bit of a break after this, but there is the charity event, Christmas charity event on Sunday with Kieran and Austin returning to the comms box to take you through that. And just, who knows, I might even see me making an appearance and proving that, yes, I do know stuff about F1, but no, I can't drive an F1 car. And then the leagues return on the 8th of January with the Hungarian Grand Prix, and then it is flat out 8 races in the 8 weeks leading to Japan on the 26th of February, where hopefully we'll have a championship decider at the final round. We've still got a lot of racing to go between then and now, though. The safety car is coming in this lap. Toxic, he's just got to control the pack now, just got to try and build that bit of heat up into his tyres, and you can see the cars weaving vigorously at the moment. They don't want to be caught out on traction heading into turn 1.
No, you definitely don't want that, because that could just provide you all sorts of backwards momentum, but cars behind are just doing their best to make sure that if he goes, they're in best position to follow him. When's he going to go? He could go now. Any moment now would be great, but he's making them wait as long as possible. And there you go. He's caught them all out. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think he was waiting for Netsky just to put a bit of an extra weave on, and then he thought, right, I'm looking backwards, and then I'm going, and it's worked perfectly for him. So Toxic in the lead of this race. Netsky is in second. Dynastic Centricities absolutely sent it round the outside of everyone into the first corner. Thankfully, he's avoided making any contact. There's a few more spots down the field as well with Larkin Khalifa and the only Tomo. Lawmans trying to work his way up ahead of Konzo, and Luke is thinking about getting himself involved in that. Larkin side by side with the Haas of the only Toma as he comes out of turn 4, gets himself into 8th place. Khalifa gets himself a bit of wheel spin, manages to get away from it. Lukey's tried to send one down the inside of Konzo. There's all sorts of contact, and Konzo is off towards the wall, but thankfully for him, stops it, or we could have well seen possibly even another safety car there, and Lukey has got some front wing damage from all of that. The 2 Mercedes, though, beginning to escape, and Toxic, he got an absolutely perfect restart.
He did. He nailed it pretty perfectly, so congrats to him for that, and let's see if it will be the element we talked about at the end of the race which decided the race win between the two Mercedes drivers, or position. We'll see in time, but that was unfortunate for Luki. He had some damage. Again, he's driving well, he's just not getting any luck at the moment, but we'll see if that can help him with strategy. I mean, he's on the hard, so that's not the best thing in the world for him to happen, but it's not major damage, so he might be able to struggle on for a bit. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Well, I imagine... I'm surprised he's not coming into the pits. I was going to say, I imagine you'd come in and put a set of the medium tyres on round about now, as J. Luke's going to be fairly straightforward pass for the Alfa Romeo driver. He's going to get himself up into 13th. Arnaud as well, battling with Samba Gamer, and you've got Khalifa and Thomas battling for 9th and 10th for the Red Bull driver, the sole Red Bull driver remaining in this race after the retirement from his teammate. And it's fair to say the season 15 precision tier constructors champions aren't having the ideal start to defending that, getting that title in the Pinnacle tier. They're 4th in the championship on 11 points coming into this race, but Khalifa looks as though, as things stand, he would get himself a nice 4 points. And he still does have to pit. Larkin, though, he's got himself up to 8th, despite the fact that he's going to have to pit again. He's not doing too bad at the moment, and once DRS is active, he can use that to just stay in range of everyone else. This could still work out brilliantly, just depending how long everyone else can pit, and can they maybe drag their mediums on long enough so they can put a set of softs on towards the end, because then Larkin will definitely be a hunted man in the final few laps.
Yeah, he definitely will be, but talking of hunted men, Luke, he's still... Oh, well, never mind, I spoke too soon. Oh, no, wait, hang on a minute. J-Luke, I thought he was going to overtake him, but Luke, he went off track a little bit, but J-Luke just let him back on track in front. I think maybe he thought maybe he pushed him off, so he was waiting for him to get back on, which is very sporting of him. But Lukey and J-Luke have had this sensational battle for the last lap, and Lukey's still ahead.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how he's doing it with that front wing damage, so here we go again. J-Luke going to try second time around, same as what he did last time. He now gets himself up into 13th, but that will, of course, give his namesake, DRS, on the run down towards turn 4, as the DRS has now been activated again with 17 laps to go in this race. So can J-Luke now hold on to that position? And it looks like he is going to. And it looks like the field's actually quite spread out up ahead, despite there being in a DRS train all the way from Lakitu to Lawmans at the moment. Here's Ollie Flavel just trying to get himself involved in it. The gaps are fairly big, and it's not ideal for what they'd want to try and help get any overtakes done, but at least it means for some of those higher up, they don't have to worry too much about any moves from behind. As Centricity, I'm not sure if he made a slight mistake there coming out of turn 10, maybe just lighting up the rear tyres slightly as he used his overtake and opened his DRS, but he's managing to stay in 5th place. Still, though, the only driver to have penalties. 5 seconds will be removed, though, when he serves that in the pits. Good job from the Mercedes drivers, just pushing themselves hard at the moment. 0.8 of a second separating them, and as long as Lakitu doesn't start to get in range of Netsky, you can't imagine that he's going to be too bothered about being behind at the moment.
No, he's just probably happy just to trade lap times with his teammate just for now, but he's definitely doing enough to keep Lakitu out of the DRS window. So yeah, I think he's pretty happy right now, but things can always change with the lapse of concentration or a little bit of a push where you don't need to and catch a curb here or there, and the race changes, so he's got to stay on this, but at the moment they're both doing a great job.
Yeah, and you saw how much he catches up there. The gap goes down to half a second. Goes down by half a second, I should say, using the 2 DRS zones down the main straight and into turn 4, but then he's going to lose time ever so slightly in the dirty air, and he is on 1 lap older tyres, so I wonder if that dirty air is going to affect him enough that he feels like he needs to ditch those set of mediums. As turn 7 seems to be proving quite tricky for a few drivers tonight. That's for Haas of Thomas off the circuit. He is just going to stay ahead of Konzo, though. Does drop into 14th. In fact, Konzo does the exact same thing and breaks his front wing, though. So we've seen 2 drivers now in the wall there. Thankfully for him, he is able to continue, but it looks as though the only point he's going to be fighting for might be that fastest lap point for those outside the top 10 at the end of the race, unless there is another safety car, and he's going to find it very tough to even get that Renault back around. Lakitu then can't quite get in contact with the front 2 at the moment. Seems to be having better pace on those mediums, because it did look for a time, definitely in the first couple of laps, as though he was dropping back on those soft tyres, but now that he's burnt a bit of fuel off, got purple actually in sector 3 there, now that he's burnt a bit of fuel off, seems to be coping a bit better.
Yeah, definitely all about the fuel burning off. It sort of helps some drivers, and I think he's one of them that needs that. But you have Khalifa closing in on Larkin, Samba and Arnold there. They're having a bit of a battle, as Arnold and Samba in fact trade places themselves. So this battle is just beginning, and I think we're going to see positions traded a long way down the road as Lukey pits again and Konzo makes it to the pit lane. So good job from him to make it back, because that looked like a handful.
Yeah, you can just see through turn 10, it's a corner where you suffer from understeer anyway. He was pretty much going straight on there with that missing front wing robbing him of all the downforce that he really needed at that part of the circuit. And this battle between Samba and Arnold is just allowing those front 5 to get away. It's now 2 seconds behind Zentricity and Samba, so that is definitely good news for the Haas driver as he looks to celebrate his debut this season with getting himself a nice handy set of points for that 5th position. He'd get a very nice 10 points for that. As it stands, fastest lap of the race at the moment is Toxic, perhaps unsurprisingly, and it looks like it will be Thomas who gets that for outside the top 10, but still a long way to go. You'd expect that to change once we see the pit stops for the final set of tyres. Is Arnold then able to get a good enough exit to get ahead of Samba Gamer? Again, it looks like he's not going to be close enough into turn 1. Might just be turn 4 where he has to make this his opportunity, although the Williams isn't using any overtake at the moment, so we might see a late move down the inside from the Alfa Romeo driver. Tries to stick his nose in just about as enough of his car alongside to force his way through there. He's going to have DRS once again, and Larkin's got a fantastic view of all this battling going along here. Alfa Romeo to the left, Williams to the right hand side. Can Arnold go all the way around the outside? He's locked up ever so slightly, and Larkin, he doesn't have to pit. He wants to get ahead of these drivers though, but he wants to be a bit careful as there's a bit of contact between the Alfa Romeo and the Williams, and Arno does now get ahead.
Yeah, and also watch out for Khalifa on the back of this as well. This is heating up really quickly, and I'm loving it. But let's just watch this battle as it unfolds itself into turn 10. There's not really an opportunity there, but if you get on the power nice and early as you can anyway, not too early, because otherwise you just spin around and face the way he just came from. But Larkin's going to try it, is he? No, he's just making Samba aware that he's there. Really, it's a possibility, but no. I don't think he had quite enough torque coming out of the corner on those hard tyres. On the mediums, he might have made it stick, but at the hards, he doesn't have to go for anything. He just has to follow them round.
Yeah, we said in qualifying, unless you're alongside into turn 11, it's a really hard corner to overtake, and Larkin's just suffering from being that third man in a train at the moment, so could really hope with getting ahead of Samba, but Samba still has for DRS, because this is the point in the race where we might start seeing them as hard tyres, probably about equal to performance at the mediums. In the next couple of laps, I'll imagine they'll be a bit better, but Larkin very low on his ERS at the moment, goes up to about 18%. In fact, he gives the Williams a little bit of a love tap there, coming through turn 1. That is not ideal whatsoever. He'll have DRS once again, but unfortunately from that camera angle, you can't see the red light starting to flash on the back of his car, so he's not really able to do anything about it. So this is the battle for 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. And again, Lormans and Arnold are finding themselves right in the middle of all this. Slightly further ahead though, Lakitu's, the gaps aren't really changing between the front 5. Toxic and Netsky staying just over half a second, and Lakitu, he's now about 2 seconds further back, but Dynastics just doesn't seem to be able to get past.
No, not yet, but I'm sure he'll keep trying, and he might find a way. He's got 12, 13 laps to find a way through, so just stick with what you're doing and put the pressure on the guy in front. You can always make him make a mistake. Doesn't have to be now, but just keep trying it, and eventually you'll get your way through. As long as it's clean, I'm sure it will be. But this is another battle that hasn't had a lot of TV time today because of all the battles going on around them. But that is also definitely worth keeping an eye on, as well as the gap that don't fluctuate too much between the top 4 as Toxic's in. Not sure why. I mean, there's no damage there, so he's probably just a regulation stop, in all fairness. So I forget I said that, but yeah, it's definitely advantage Netsky at this moment.
Yes, Toxic into the pits, going on to another set of mediums, and before Toxic came in I was wondering if we'd see these drivers try and stretch the mediums a bit more and go for a set of the soft tyres, of course, if they do have any fresh sets of soft left after qualifying. So the only Toma stays ahead of Toxic. Well, I should say Toxic comes out behind, so he's not really in free air at the moment. So will this trigger a chain reaction? And we'll start to see a few more other drivers coming into the pits. Another battle that's not getting a lot of screen time, and he seems to be attracted to the McLarens at the moment, is J. Luke in 11th and Oliver Lavelle for 10th position. So battling over some of the lower points positions at the moment, and you'd imagine now that Toxic has made his second stop, that's probably all that they'll be fighting for towards the end of this race. You can see who has to stop again at this moment. The top 6, Khalifa and the Haas of the only Thomas, who's currently in 12th place, are the only drivers who still have to come in for that second mandatory stop. Will we see Netsky maybe think about going longer and going for a set of the softs if he's got them?
Yeah, that would be my preference if I was out there right now in this position, but it looks like he's going in now. So I'll forget that. Yeah,
looks like he's coming in, and looks like quite a few of the others are following as well. Dynastics and Lakitu, who made a very late decision, actually, to come into the pit. Centricity, then, in the lead of this race, looking pretty decent at the moment, are now in second. Samba third. Larkin just can't get ahead of these drivers because he's in the DRS training. That's affecting Khalifa, and Lawmans is just hanging onto these guys as well. And that is interesting. Dynastics and Lakitu have gone for a set of the soft tyres. 11 laps on the softs. They're not going to be feeling too good towards the end. But if they can get ahead of those Mercedes drivers quickly and maybe build a gap, this just could work. They haven't made the undercut work, though. In fact, Toxic has had so much pace on that fresh set of medium tyres. He's now 2 seconds ahead of Netsky, so he's looking pretty good if he can keep it clean.
Yep, if is a big word, and if is just Formula 1 spelled backwards, as we all know. But there's certainly an advantage there to be gained, but the softs to the end from there is a little bit longer than they might be able to go. I mean, they'll be on the car, but will they be useful? We'll see. But I'm definitely intrigued by that one.
Yeah, very intriguing indeed. And Netsky's going to try and make his way past the Haas here of Thomas, who realises, you know what, there's not a lot of point fighting that. You're in a different battle to me for now. So Netsky works his way ahead, and I'm sure Dynastics and Lakitu would have been hoping that he puts up a bit more of a fight there, and they'll be hoping now that he lets them by quite easily as well. And I've got to say, I was not expected to see softs that early. I don't really think around this track you want to take them more than 10 laps, and they are going to have to do 11, so perhaps a bit borderline. Look at this, so Dynastics is going to try and go around the outside of the Haas, and he's made it work. He's just got so much more grip, as we've seen Centricity now come into the pits. Toxic sets the fastest lap of the race, and this is now currently the battle for the lead. Arnaud and Samba, with Khalifa in 4th place. Those are the drivers still out there who are still yet to pit. So Larkin and Lawmans, if they can hold off, could maybe get themselves a win.
Yeah, they're in good position to try it, and looking forward to finding out if that's the case or not. And right now, it appears that they'll definitely be in the battle for it.
Yeah, and a great move coming through turn 4 by the looks of things. That's how quick these soft tyres are. Oh, never mind, Dynastics has made a mistake, and that's going to allow Netsky to try it around the outside at turn 8. Who's got the traction out of the corner? One hand off the wheel there, showing a bit of frustration. They're so close. Are they going to come together somehow? They've avoided damaging each other, and Netsky works his way ahead. This is going to be an interesting battle for the rest of this race, and the big winner out of all that's probably Toxic and Lakitu, because he's been able to stretch his gap ever so slightly, and Lakitu has been able to hang on to the back of these drivers and just save a bit of ERS while they've been fighting tooth and nail. 9 laps to go at the end of this one. Toxic 8.5 seconds off the back of Larkin at the moment, but on much fresher tyres after taking advantage during that first safety car. We now see Arnaud and Khalifa come into the pits. They'll be going on to a set of soft tyres towards the end. Can Toxic make his way past Ollie Flavel? The McLaren driver has DRS. He's not even bothering to use it though. He drops down into 6th position. Dynastics, can he work his way back past the Mercedes of Netsky? Down the inside goes Verdane. He gets that position done, and is Lakitu going to be able to take advantage of that? But again, he's the third man in a DRS train, and it is so difficult to overtake when you're in that position.
Yeah, he seems to be in that position all day, but he's still going around trying to make something happen. And Arnold's pitted now. He comes out in P11 on the soft, so he's definitely well placed to get some very handy points. He may jump Zentricity as well, as he's still got 3 seconds to serve for track limit infringements, and I'm surprised that's the only one so far.
Yeah, the drivers have kept it very clean. Obviously, having a safety car helps ever so slightly, as Larkin, now he realises a lot of drivers have pitted, now he realises he's got an opportunity, and he's taken that into the lead of this race on turn 11. He tried it a couple of laps ago, managed to get the move done this time, so he's in the lead on those hard tyres. Now he needs to take everything out of those Pirellis for the final 8 laps of this race if he wants to be the victor. You could see still a bit low on ERS though at this moment in time. Toxic 7.3 seconds off the lead. He's going to be one to watch to see if he's got the pace. Lawmans, can his medium tyres last? Samba Gamer now comes into pit, so everyone has done their compulsory stop as Dynastics here trying to get past Ollie Flavel, who's now using the DRS because I think he thinks he's maybe got a chance of getting ahead of J-Luke, and Dynastics should have the pace though on the brakes. That extra grip gets the move done, and Lakitu has worked his well past Netsky as well, going on those mediums for Netsky. It's costing him now. He's just got to hope and pray that the softs of Dynastics and Lakitu hit the famous cliff towards the end.
Yeah, that move came out of nowhere for Lakitu, but good on him to keep it in there, and I don't think Netsky would, in all honesty, be expecting it, but he's definitely going to be hoping for the cliff to happen as Lakitu gets past Ollie Flavel, sort of. Hasn't quite made, there we go, made it stick now. Just puts on a little bit of ERS, I think, just to get the grunt out of the grip of the tyres, and now he's chasing down J-Luke.
Yeah, I think Ollie Flavel thought about fighting it and then realised it's probably a bit fruitless. He's trying to fight off Netsky here, who's just not got the ERS to get ahead, and that is going to cost him ever so slightly through these next couple of corners. We have got another battle further down the field between someone on the set of mediums and someone on a set of softs. Zentricity in 9th, Arnold in 10th. We've got a yellow flag. That is Netsky. Netsky has gone around. I'm not sure whether he's tried to make a move there on Ollie Flavel through turn 12 or whether he's just lost it on the curb, but he has spun round. His chances of a podium are going out the window, and all of a sudden, Arnold might be able to catch him up as well. So the pole sitter, the man who had so much pace at the start of this race, he's not even going to get a podium.
No, and that's always the perils. It looks like he may have just caught a curve.
Sorry to interrupt, Matt. Dynastics has gone down the inside of Toxic, so he's now into 3rd place.
Yeah, that's a move I didn't see happening at that time, but yeah, I think Netsky may have just caught a curb because there's no damage on the system that we use, the TAS. I forgot the name for a second, so I was trying to give myself a moment, and don't think anybody noticed, so we're fine. But yeah, Arnold's definitely in a great position for some points, and he's, as you say, he's right behind the pole sitter, so he must have a world of confidence, and he's on slightly better tyres, and I think he's good to the end on those. I don't think there'll be any cliff for them, so this could be a great result for Arnold today.
Yeah, definitely, and this race we've got such a good position to be in at the moment. You've got Larkin 2.5 seconds ahead. Those hards now just coming into their own compared to the mediums on Lawmans, who is 2.5 seconds behind and 2.5 seconds ahead of Dynastics. Lawmans is going to be slightly worried that his tyres will make it to the end, and the Williams and Dynastics, he won't get a puncture. He might not have any pace towards the end of the race. That's why he's now trying to get away from Toxic, who is in 4th. Lakitu 5th. J-Luke and Ollie Flavel 6th and 7th, trying something similar to Larkin and Lawmans just to possibly get any points from this race. Netsky, who qualified on pole position, all of a sudden it looks as though 8th place might be the best he can manage. Arnold is 9th, Zentricity is 10th. Don't know if he'll be 10th for much longer though. He's going to have Khalifa all over the back of him here. Khalifa's got the DRS, but he's choosing not to use the DRS because Zentricity has the DRS as well. So there's this entire train of cars with Samba in 12th, who looked for a second as if he was thinking about sending it, chose not to, and it does look like they will be the 12-point finishers. The only Thomas, Luki and Konzo quite a way off the points at the moment.
Yeah, but you never know. All you need is another person to catch a curb, and they might not be so lucky. They might trigger a VSC, or, well, not for that wouldn't do them any good, but a quick safety car now would be all the impetus they need to get back into it. But you never know what might happen, but this is a brilliant battle, and Khalifa is looking to pick off Zentricity by the end of the lap. He's getting ever so close. You can see him. He's almost able to change gears for Zentricity as he has a little moment, and now he's lost the position. So forget everything I just said.
It's so easy to do out of turn 10. You're concentrating so much on the braking zone. You want to get on the throttle early because you need a fantastic exit to have any opportunity into turn 11. It's so easy just to spin up those rear tyres as you try and put that near 1,000 brake horsepower through them. And Khalifa just losing out ever so slightly. Still, though, as we said, looks as though he is on for a point as Dynastics and Lawmans now. Those mediums on Lawmans really struggling on the racing point. Dynastics goes down the inside and Toxic just about tries to follow him through. Thankfully, Lawmans realised he was there and he nearly loses it on the exit of the corner, but that is Toxic up into third, Dynastics up into second, 3.5 seconds behind the leader with 5 laps to go. That is going to be very close as Samba Gamer works his way past Zentricity. So the Williams making moves on the mediums and Lawmans is out. We have a safety car. Well, I did say some of those drivers, like Larkin, J. Luke and Ollie Flavel, might be hoping for a late safety car. They've got their wish.
They have, and I'm not entirely certain what happened to Lawmans there. He seemed okay, so I switched to the next car, and all of a sudden the safety car's out. This is going to be a quick one, and I guess if you're outside the top 12, put some softs on and see what you can get. But if you're already out there on good tyres, you might as well just stick with them and take the points you're guaranteed. Because Khalifa wouldn't need to, but say if he was on old hards, he might be tempted to switch to softs, but that would drop him down to the back. So we'll see if anyone does that. But this is a cracking end to a brilliant race.
I mean, what do you do if you're Larkin? You're in the lead of this race, your hard tyres are very old indeed. If you pit now, you're coming out in 4th place. Coming out in 4th, well, he is going to come into the pits then, but we're not going to have too long for you to work your way back up the order, because Dynastics is coming in as well, and Toxic stays out. You're only going to have, 2 laps after the safety car comes in, so there's going to be no DRS. If you could just get your ERS back up to normal and use your fuel, you might be able to hold off, even though you're on the older, worse tyres. Dynastics clearly had another set of soft tyres then, so he must have done very well saving his tyres. He's now going to drop a long way down the order because so many drivers have decided to stay out on circuit. Larkin, in fact, I thought he'd come out in about 4th place. He's come out in 7th. Is that enough time to work your way up the order?
Not too much. I think he may be able to gain a couple of positions because Khalifa's softs will be pretty much past their best operating window, and especially running behind the safety car, they're going to cool down a lot, so he may struggle for rear traction as the safety car comes in. But look, Arno's P4.
Arno's P4, and the man who I said, we might not get a podium, Knetsky's in 3rd place. Yeah,
he's pulled that. He's really done a massive comeback there. That's great driving from a lot of drivers today. It's going to be tricky to think of the mandatory driver of the day, but we have to start thinking about it now. So much has happened that it may be nearly impossible. But we've got a few laps to think about it, see if anyone can make the case in the final couple of laps.
Yes, so much has happened, so much still could happen. Our second safety car then, and I did the same as you. I looked at Lawmans and thought, he's lost out that position on who was it who overtook him? I think it was Toxic, wasn't it, who just overtaken him in the Mercedes. I thought that was all over, and then all of a sudden Lawmans is out of the race. We get a full safety car, and it is very rare you see the safety car come out this late into the race. It has come out so late that we are going to get 2 racing laps when it comes back in, and that penalty for Zentricity is now really going to cost him because he's got 3 seconds. He's got to hope maybe that some of the others make a mistake. Otherwise, a promising performance pace-wise is going to end with no points.
Yeah, it's going to hurt, especially as Haas needed to bounce back, and I guess you could say he's unlucky, but then he's the one that did the track limit infringement, so it is unlucky that the safety car came out, I guess. But yeah, it's Luki's in again. I don't know what he's doing. I'm confused by that one, but never mind. Maybe he's interested in his point. Maybe safe after all.
Yeah, there was just a tyre change there. Whether that is it a delaying tactic to just get the safety car to stay out another lap? I've seen it suggested by people. I've never seen anyone do it, but I've heard rumours before of people driving fairly slowly behind the safety car just to delay it coming out, because they're going to be I'd imagine they're still going to be able to catch it up because the safety car's going around doing about 2-minute 14 lap times. And Luke is 30 seconds off the lead of this race at the moment. He's going to be pretty close to catching it up, as is Konzo. So whether he just decided, I've got a fresh set of softs, I might as well have 1 lap fresher and it's only going to lose me 1 place. Who knows? So let's go through the top few drivers there. You can see Toxic in the lead of this race on 8-lap medium tyres. Lakitu's in second, 7-lap-old soft. Netsky has the same age of tyres, but they're mediums. Arnaud, Samba and Khalifa have slightly fresher soft tyres. Larkin, Dynastics, J-Luke, Ollie Flavel have very fresh soft tyres. Thomas has got some wear on his. Zentricity, Konzo and Lukey haven't. This is wide open now because you've got to make the moves early on. You can't just think, oh, I'll wait for the DRS and then just breathe past you. The DRS ain't coming.
Yeah, there won't be any DRS for the end of this race as the safety car, thankfully, is in this lap. So we are going to have a couple of lap sprints at the end. Anything can happen, and I'm looking forward to the madness that might occur. But this has been a sensational race for a lot of drivers. So let's finish this one off in style, boys.
I hope you've got your popcorn ready, everyone that's watching at home, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to be a corker. Toxic has got to just try and hope that those soft tyres on Lakitus have gone. Netsky finds himself with a second chance after being involved in some sort of spin earlier. A bit of bad luck under the first safety car, a bit of good fortune maybe with the second. We know Toxic went for it late last time. Khalifa's got a penalty for a collision with Samba Gamer. They might be able to get that removed, and we are racing once again, and the start hasn't quite gone as well for Toxic as it did last time around, but he is going to be able to hold on. Samba Gamer trying to go all the way around the outside of Arnold. He's gone very late on the brakes, similar to what he did on restart number 1, and he's got the position, so he's trying to force his way up the order. He does have that penalty though, which at the moment would drop him out of the points. Larkin moves ahead of Khalifa on that fresh set of soft tyres, and Dynastics is going to try the same thing as well. In fact, Larkin's tapped the back of Arnold ever so slightly. That's forced the Alfa Romeo driver wide, and I don't think he's going to be too over enamoured with that bit of driving from the Renault driver. Can he hold off? No, he cannot. And Dynastics now, he fancies a sniff of the Alfa Romeo driver. Not an ideal start whatsoever for Arnold. He's dropping down the field. Khalifa is as well. Those old softs aren't really giving you the performance that you need at this moment in time, as Ollie Flavel now nearly goes into the back of J-Luke, and it's all kicking off. Zentricity side by side with Khalifa and Ollie Flavel, who just drops back ever so slightly, and it looks like Zentricity is able to get that move done, get himself up into 9th place. In the lead of this race though, Toxic has almost got away by 1 second. He's had an absolutely fantastic start, and you'd imagine just needs to keep it clean at the moment. Lakitu is in second, Netsky in third. Can Samba Gamer sneak himself onto a podium on track? It won't be a podium after the results with the penalties. He could at least get himself a podium on track. It is all going to be kicking off in this final lap.
Yeah, there was a moment where I thought they were going to go 4 wide round turn 10. I thought, please don't do that. But I did see the Renault come from absolutely nowhere and get about 70,000 positions. So that was a great bit of driving into turn 1 on the restart. Unfortunately for Arnold, he's fallen backwards. But as I feared and spoke about earlier, Khalifa's tyres just aren't there. So he's going to be lucky to hold on to any points at all, as Lukey is all over the back of him as he's battling with his teammate there. So there's a 3-way battle for 10th, 11th and 12th. And Konzo's on the back of that as well, so all the points are still to play for.
It is all still to pay for. One slight mistake will cost you, and we saw that from the Haas of the only Thomas. He's going to be finishing, unfortunately for him now, in last position. 14 out of 14 drivers. Larkin and Netsky are going side by side. Can Netsky hold on to this position? Larkin's going to try and go around the outside. Netsky's almost around, and Dynastics is thinking, you know what, I'll just take the pair of you. Thank you very much, lads, for creating that gap. And that is Dynastics now up into third place. Netsky still trying to hold on from Larkin, who now thinks, I've just got so much more grip than you, I will just go straight round the outside. And he takes that 4th place. There was a bit of contact between them there. I think we might see a move on the final corner of the race here, although Netsky is saying that has now just dropped a bit too far back, and Dynastics is trying to cover off the slipstream. And while all the chaos has been going on behind him in the final couple of laps, yes, he might have got a bit fortunate under the first safety car, but fortune favours the brave, and it is Toxic to take his first victory here. Lakitu with another podium, Dynastics third, Larkin fourth, Netsky, Arnold, J-Luke, Ollie Flavel, Lukey, Zentricity, Samba Gamer, Konzo. The point scorers, Khalifa and the only Thomas just missing out, but there are a few penalties that we may or may not see removed. Toxic both times he got the safety car restarts absolutely perfect, and you've got to say that second one won him the race.
Yeah, it definitely did, and you didn't see that coming. He tried a completely different restart tactic from the first time around, and it paid off for him again, so that's definitely winning the race. As we mentioned earlier, it could be a race winner. Turns out he was, but for different reasons.
Yeah, safety cars sort of ruined what we would have seen towards the end, because it looked as though we were spicing up to get a great battle anyway, but in the end we did get some fantastic battles for the final podium slots. Toxic with the victory, a second podium of the season a second podium of the season actually for all three drivers, just in a slightly different order. Toxic jumping up 2 steps and the other 2 drivers dropping down 1, so it's still Lakita with that very early lead in the championship standings. As we have a look at the provisional results then, we know what the top 3 were. Larkin making that strategy work, making 2 stops under the first safety car, did manage to fight his way back up into 4th. Netsky had the 1 lap pace in the race, so just things not working his way. He ended up finishing in 5th place. Arnaud in 6th. J-Luke, after a nightmare start to the race and 4 pit stops, ends up finishing in 7th. And Ollie, Flavel and Lukey, I don't think they'd have expected to be 8th and 9th, especially considering the lack of setup on the Jersey man's car. Zentricity is 10th. Samba Gamer and Konzo rounding out the points. Khalifa with that penalty. I imagine he will try and get that removed from the stewards. The only Thomas having that spin out of the final corner on the penultimate lap. Lomans and Janil, the 2 drivers that bought out the 2 safety cars. So many contenders for the driver of the day, Matt. Who are you going for?
Well, yeah, there's so many. Like I said, I picked Arnold to have a special result today. He delivered that, but he could have been so much better if not for that second safety car. But I know it seems a bit obvious, really, but I'm going to go Larkin, who was in the lead of this race and probably could have won it if not for that final safety car. So I'm going to ask him if he thought the win was ever on, or if he was just trying to secure some much needed points.
Now, I was going to go for Larkin. So
Sorry.
I've got a bit of thinking to do, all of a sudden, and just for the comeback and the 4 pit stops, I'm going to have to go for my namesake, J-Luke. His teammate got driver of the day off the game. He did gain 5 positions himself, though. I'm guessing making 4 pit stops wasn't part of the plan. How relieved were you, or were you relieved, actually, when you saw that final safety car coming out, seeing as you were on a very old set of the hard tyres? So those are our questions, and in a way, we've gone for similar drivers who tried to make the hards work right until the end, and in the end maybe got a bit of fortune, but definitely got themselves some decent points. Neither of them got a podium, though. It was Toxic, Lakitu and Dynastics with a podium, and you will be able to vote for the driver of the day on the Twitter feed, but there's so many drivers we could have picked there. It was an absolutely fantastic race once again at Bahrain, and I was a bit shocked. I think you could tell at the end of the race. Somehow we ended up with the same 3 drivers on the podium as we did last week.
Yeah, I think that's been slightly overlooked in all that brilliant racing, but it's great that the podium's been shook up this week and the order was different. So, looking forward to more of the same after Christmas. It's been a great couple of races to start the season.
Yeah, definitely. Just a shame that the Christmas break's coming to ruin the momentum. But I think after 2020, I think it's fair to say we've all deserved a nice long-earned break. Although we're not getting much of a break, are we? Because we're back on Sunday in the Christmas charity event.
Oh yeah, we are.
I mean, unless I get the trivia questions right, I'm out in round 1. So.
Well, there is that. It depends on what era the trivia questions are coming from. I know stuff, but not necessarily at the right time of asking the questions. But you can see how we get on in that over the weekend. But for those of you that aren't there, I guess we'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, we will definitely. If we don't see you on Sunday, definitely, as we said, have a great Christmas, have a good New Year, relax. Be careful, of course, in the crazy world we're living in at the moment. Just like to thank our sponsors once again, Vespertine, Liam 13 and Next Level Racing. And with the way it's going at the moment, you'd imagine everyone that isn't called Toxic Lakitu and Dynastics has probably already got one eye on that next level racing wheel stand at this moment in time for the Going Gets Tough award. Another fantastic race, our second different winner of the season. And as we said, got a bit lucky with the first safety car, but his restarts won him the day. Toxic, keeping it clean and taking a victory. Who will come out in the fighting form when One Hub Racing returns with the prospect tier from a league racing point of view at 6:15 on Friday, the 8th of January. So a 3-week break for us now. Time for us all to relax. Thank you for being with One Hub this year throughout 2020, and we'll see you after the new year. Goodbye.